Hello, welcome back to the most amazing board game photography series. In part 1, we covered the box. In number 2, we covered the most difficult items within the board gaming space, and that is cards. In part 3, you guessed it, we are covering the most collectible item, arguably the most collectible item in the board gaming space, and that is, without a doubt, within my hand. I'm gonna drop it right now. It is dice. Now, right before we dive into these amazing dice techniques, please make sure that you are subscribed to the channel. And if you know another board game photographer, please make sure you share with them as well. I think it'll help all of us at least stimulate some ideas and get some nice creativity juices flowing. And I really want to push the growth of this channel this year, and I can't do that without you. So with that said, let's get started. So dice are different in that they sit in the middle. They sit in the middle between a subject and an accent piece because they can stand alone, for example. So for example, this die from... If you can guess which die this is from, as generic as it is, if you can guess exactly which board game this die is from, I will pin your comment to the top. The first one that gets this right, I'll pin it to the top, and I'll also reveal the answer in the next video, and just in case no one gets it by then. But you know exactly which die this is from. Trust me, you know. However, if you have unique dice like these dice over here from Seasons, these dice are so unique in that they can become the subject themselves. And the reason for that is because they have their own unique distinguishing patterns on each face of the die. So because they're different and because they are unconventional, then they can stand alone as a subject piece. And if they are half and half, let's say they have some faces that are generic and some faces that aren't, even though these dice are from Fujikoro, let's assume that the 1 and 2s are generic and the little sword icon, sword broken icons here are unique. Let's assume that these dice are half generic and half unique, meaning half of the faces are like a typical die like you'll see here, like 1, 2, 3, 4, and the other half, like for example the broken sword piece, that's unconventional, right? So maybe half of them are generic and half of them are unique. If they're half and half, they still will probably fit in more as an accent piece. Now with that, you already have the foundation set from part 1, you have all of the unique perspectives from part 2. Now, let's just go straight into some techniques that you can use specifically for dice. Okay, so I'm gonna break down 3 photos that I've done recently for different shoots. And then I'm gonna do 2 live shoots in front of you, and I don't even know how they're gonna turn out because I haven't even done them yet, so we'll do it here together. Okay, so this is a photo showing how dice can act as an accent piece. And the reason why the die is an accent piece is because it doesn't take away from the subject. It also blends in with the same color, right? So that's why I use specifically the brown die with the brown ship. So matching the color scheme is one way you can use dice as an accent piece, and you can put it off to the side, that way it doesn't detract away from the main subject. And here's a little detail here, if you don't know about Plunder, in Plunder there's a mechanism called the Storm. And on this die face right here, we see all the little zigzags over there. That symbol is a symbol for the storm itself. So that's why I also poured sand right there just to indicate all of like this chaos. So that dark background mixed with all the chaos of the sand, mixed with the sinking ship. I also put that little detail there with the storm in the storm-based die. If you're ever interested in the details of my photos, I always include little tidbits like that. It's the English major undergrad inside me. Now here's the next photo, and this one is a little bit different. So here we have a nice sunset, right? We have a nice horizon in the back. I used a dead log in order to block a leading line in the front, so your eyes kind of just stop right there. And then you see this cluster of pieces here. So you have the ship, and you have a set of dice right in front. But the thing is, if the ship was by itself, it'd be boring. If the dice were there by themselves, it'd also be boring. So they kind of complement each other, and together make a subject. Arguably, I still think the dice are a little bit of accent piece because they are half blurred, so they are melting into that bokeh. If I were to pick one subject, it would be the ship itself. But if we were to take away all the fancy terminology here, this is what the dice adds. It adds texture, it adds shape, it adds color, and it adds a unique variety to the overall photo. That's what makes it more interesting than if they were to be by themselves or if the ship was to be by itself too. Notice also how they're not symmetrical, they're not in a straight line. If I were to put the dice symmetrical and all in like a straight line, it wouldn't make any sense, right? Because the ship is on its side and there's like sand all over it. So there's a detail of chaos here. Now this detail here insinuates being shipwrecked, and shipwrecked and symmetry really don't match. So that's why I juxtaposed the dice a little bit, moved around, made the spacing uneven. There's not really a clear lean line here within the dice themselves, which is why I put that giant log right in the back, so it stops the viewer right there. So these are all the thoughts that are racing my head every time I am composing a photo. If you just try to break it down simply for all the components, doesn't matter what, if it's dice or whatever, if you just break it down and think about, okay, what is going to make this photo unique? What's going to make it interesting? What's going to make the viewer stop? And how can I guide the viewer to where I want them to get to, the payoff? If you think about all those questions, it's going to guide you towards more unique and interesting pictures. Now we get to the really fun ones. So here, now what if dice are the main subject? Well, now they're going to be treated like any other piece, right? So now we can really immerse them into theme. And one way of doing that is understanding what the dice are representing. Here, for example, you have seasons, and seasons dice represent a specific element. In this case, the blue dice are representing water, and we have the red dice, which represents fire. So instead of just taking dice and dropping them midair, that's cool and all, but what does it mean? So as cool as it looks to just drop dice in the middle of the air, it doesn't really help add to the theme of the photo, and board games are all about theme. So one way you can immerse water dice here into a water theme is by doing it in a water tank. So for the full process about how to take this kind of shot in this specific water tank, I did break it down in this video and I would recommend checking that out. Use the same concepts here. So here is the shot after 2,000 photo attempts. No joke, there were 2,000 raw photos after I attempted this shot. And the reason for that is because I wanted everything to be perfect. I wanted the water side, the part where it's showing like the water droplet symbol, to be showing towards the camera. I wanted everything as tack sharp as possible. I wanted a nice pattern to the water texture, and I wanted everything to be in super clear, sharp focus, and also wanted the background to be crushed, so you can't see anything else. So in this picture, you see this really cool tornado-like swirl as the dice just swirl down, right? And everything just ties in and makes sense. Your eyes are going down the photo because they're following that tornado-like line shape. It's going straight to the subject, which is the payoff, so you see the dice in super sharp tack focus. You also see the element that it's representing, right? So you see the teardrop or the water drop, which represents water. The dice are also blue because they're from Seasons, and Seasons blue dice represents water. So that is the resource that you're using in the game. So naturally it makes sense for it to be immersed in water as well. Everything is also isolated, so you don't see anything else in the background, maybe just little textures of water, but in terms of the background itself, it's just pitch black. And that is perfect because here we want a complete isolated photo of our subject. So if you notice so far, every time I take a photo, they're always immersed in theme, right? So for Plunder, it's all about pirates, which is why I took it straight to the beach. So now I'm gonna show you two methods here as I shoot it live. Are you ready? Because I'm about to blow your flippin' mind. So you will need a acrylic panel. So this is a nice black one that I have, and the reason why it's so cool because it produces nice reflection. But this acrylic panel is really nice. You also will need a lint roller. You also need a lighter. Please be very careful. In terms of lighting, make sure you turn all of your external lights off. I have 3 dice here and I moved them so they're a little bit asymmetrical. One is like balanced a little bit off tipped to the middle, and then we have one, the top one aligned with the bottom one. Secondly, here I have my acrylic panel on the table and I have just a foam board on top. Ideally, I think it would work way better if you had 2 acrylic panels, one on the bottom and one on the top. In terms of my light source, you actually don't need any light at all. The only light source that you're going to have is the lighter itself because you're going to turn off all the lights. And then here I have my main camera body that is pointed straight at the dice over there. Now next, you also want to set your autofocus straight onto the dice over here so it locks in tight, and then you're going to go back over here and then turn it straight off. Now in camera, here are my camera settings. I have my shutter speed set to 6 seconds. I have my ISO at 100 and my f-stop at 5, so I get most, if not all, the dice in focus. So here's my framing. I have the dice all set up in the middle. I have some of the reflections, not all. You don't want all the reflections in there because then you won't be able to tell really which one is a subject and which one is a reflection itself. So that's why I always like to leave a little bit of the reflection chopped off. And then the next thing you want to do is go to Q if you're on a Canon camera, and then set your timer on 2 seconds, which means it's not going to take a picture. It's going to wait 2 seconds first and then take a photo. So this is how you make sure it is completely stable. That way you're not taking an instant shot. If you take an instant shot, you're gonna let the camera settle by itself. So that's why you always want to set it on a self timer mode. That way it gets a little bit of time to just relax and stabilize, and then you're ready to go. Next up, I'm gonna turn off all my lights, and as soon as I shut the lights off, I'm gonna hit the shutter button on my camera, and then I can just do a bunch of designs. I can swirl it around from side to side. I can swirl it around the dice, and dice are very durable, so I can even put the flame on the dice itself and then see what turns out. It is not the cleanest photo, but it still looks really cool. So see all these effects you can get, all that vivid fire, it just bursts with creativity. So there's so many things you can do with using this long exposure effect. So just to show you an example example, before I throw up the pictures on the screen, I can twirl the flames around the dice like that. I can put the flame directly on the dice for one shot, just like that. They're super durable and they're not gonna burn like miniatures. And then I can also do some rings to the side over here. That way they're not directly affecting the dice. And for the next photo, let's work on some composition. So here I have just a mess of components. Let's see how I am gonna compose these. Or better yet, since we're on episode 3, let me ask you, which one would be the subject of your shot? If you chose the dragon as your main subject, then you are correct. This has now become the What is Your Subject game show. So we have our dragon there. It's gonna produce a nice reflection. We're gonna use the same setup. So put the dragon straight in the middle. And then we have a bunch of lava pieces. So let's throw some over there. Let's make a nice little halo like that. And now the question is, how do we incorporate the dice? I think it looked nice with a little platform. So I want to show this face of the die over here. So my photo is going to be looking this way. So I want to show one die there. And I feel like it needs just one more die. I don't want to put it in the middle because if you put it in the middle, it's going to take away from the dragon. So maybe we actually would just lay it off on both sides. Or maybe we'll just stack it up just like this. Okay, so here we have the final setup. We have 2 dice towers, one on each side, left and right. We have them a little bit off-centered because it looks a little bit too nice if they're all organized in a straight column, especially if we have lava overflowing, we have a dragon here. An organized flow of the dice wouldn't really make as much sense. So that's why I am moving the dice a little bit off-centered on both sides. I'm showing multiple faces, right? I'm showing 2 stars here. I'm showing 2 sparks here, plus a sword broken, 1, 3, and 1 over here. So they're all different to show multiple faces of the dice. I have a lot of textures from the lava going up and down. I have our hero in the center. We have a nice reflective foreground. We have a solid black background. Again, ideally, it would have been better if I had 2 acrylic panels here. And that is our final setup. You know what? I feel like it's missing a little oomph. I feel like it's missing something that we just learned, something that we can implement right now. We have a fire dragon. Why not incorporate the little fire technique that we used earlier? Again, please be careful when using any kind of dangerous object, especially one that is flammable. But we're not just gonna use it randomly. We're not just going to spin the sides. We're not just gonna put it in the background. What is one way that we can incorporate this creatively? Here, I'll show you directly. Right, so again, here is our scene. And before I tell you what I would do, take a second to think about how would you incorporate the flames here? Where would you aim the fire so it looks most creative and that way it fits and accents the entire picture? Now for me, what I would do is to actually take it and put it around the ring of the dragon itself, because this is supposed to symbolize like a fire dragon. And if you look at it closely, there are a lot of flames that are actually at the base of the dragon already. Either flames or clouds. I'm assuming they're flames, especially since it's red. So I would put a ring of fire right around the base of the dragon, and that's it. Maybe a little bit on the towers of the dice themselves to really highlight the dice, but still our subject again is a dragon, and the dice here are going to act as accent pieces. So with that, here are a couple photos from the shoot. But with that, we are building our skill set step by step, brick by brick. I hope you found this episode helpful. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in episode